Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to Keeping Fish Simple. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 7 things that everyone in the aquarium hobby needs to hear. Now this video is going to be full of information. I'm going to talk about a bunch of useful things today. So make sure you stay around to the end of the video to get all the advice. Alright, I'm just going to rip straight into this. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is to do everything you can not to buy from big box stores. So when I talk about big box stores, I'm talking about things like Petco, PetSmart, Pet Barn, whatever. Those big box stores that aren't your local fish stores, generally, I'm not trying to have a real go at them, but what I'm just going to say is they're not going to be the best for you and your hobby. Now the reason for this is all those big box stores are driving all the little guys out of the business, and this is because everyone thinks that this is the best place to go. And the truth is you'll never have success keeping fish. You might, but you really won't have tremendous success keeping fish if you only go to those guys for advice and you listen to that teenager at the front who has no clue what they're talking about and they're just there for 15 bucks an hour. Like, seriously, the only thing that like every time I'm trying to buy something, I always try and buy local, and I always try and buy from fish stores that are run by a mum and pop, or pretty much anything that's just not one of those big box stores, because I want to support the little guy instead of the big guy, and that's just my opinion. So my second piece of advice might seem pretty obvious, and I've talked about this in heaps and heaps of videos before, and it's to medicate new fish. Now when you get new fish, they can come from farms or they can come from other breeders' tanks, and you have no clue what was in those tanks before or what the fish were raised up in. And the important thing is that you guys medicate your fish, because fish could come in, they could have worms, and if you add fish with worms to a tank with fish that are already healthy, the chances are those fish are going to get sick, and then you're just going to cause all these problems. So it's really good to, if you can, you want to quarantine your fish when they come in, so you want to be able to put them in a separate tank and make sure that you're looking for all kinds of diseases and stuff. But if that's not possible, when I get new fish and I add them to a tank with fish that I've been keeping for ages, I always just medicate. So what I like to do is like a multi-cure, because this normally covers all the diseases that are common and all the stress-related diseases, and that will be the most successful for you. So that's my second tip. Now my third tip is something that really grinds my gears. Like, I don't understand how a lot of people do this, and it's not to alter stuff. I see so many new beginners that get into this hobby, and just people in general who are in here, and they're always just touching stuff and adding chemicals to the aquarium and trying to bring the pH down and adding new rocks and moving stuff around in the aquarium, and it's so annoying. Like, the most important thing with keeping an aquarium is consistency, and it's really easy to like understand and hear people say you need to have your pH lower or your temperature higher or all this kind of stuff. Really, the most important thing with keeping an aquarium is consistency. You don't want to fluctuate between temperatures and the fish, and the most important thing is you don't want to go against the conditions of the water in your area. So you just want to accept that, hey, I've got really hard water in my area, or I've got really soft water, and without having an RO system and things like that, it's really hard to alter those things, and you just got to accept, I'm only going to buy local fish that are bred by local people who have been like raising these fish up in this climate, and then you won't be having all these problems. And another thing is, if like people are getting fish that are sick, or like algae blooms, they're adding all these chemicals, they just never seem to work. You want to try and, when you have an issue in your aquarium, you want to try and bring it down to just a few little things and really alter just 1 or 2 little things and see if that works. It's really important to have patience with those things, and that was my third tip. Okay, so my fourth tip is to feed small amounts regularly. A lot of people think that feeding fish large amounts, like feeding a whole bunch of food once a day, is good for the fish, and the truth is that's not very good for the tank's conditions. That's not good for the fish. The fish can only eat a certain amount. So what I'd recommend to do is to feed 3 times a day, twice a day, but just feed a smaller amount, and make sure that all the fish are eating all the food within a minute, and none of that food's getting to the bottom and rotting and doing all this disgusting stuff and making your water dirty and making them not like in the best conditions as possible. So just to feed a small amount regularly, and you'll have heaps and heaps of success doing this. So tip number 5 is something that's really interesting, and I really don't hear many people talking about this, and I've only really had to think about this when I've been setting up these new aquariums. I've got a bunch of other stuff going on that you guys can see. It's really messy in this room, but it's to plan out your aquarium. So a lot of people don't have any clue what they're going to do when they buy a new aquarium. They just buy it and they kind of just set it up. I can't really stress this enough, but it's really important that you guys plan out your aquariums and you plan what you're going to do. So like, for instance, with this aquarium, I was going to make a river themed aquarium. This is a very low river like kind of setting. It's just got a lot of rivery looks. But I knew the exact type of gravel I was going to have, the wood that I was going to have, the plants I was going to have, and it made setting it up really easy and maintaining the conditions really easy. And I got this guy up, and cycled within 2 weeks, and the angelfish are just doing awesome, and they're actually already starting to breed. So it's really important that you guys are making sure that you are planning out what you're going to do with your fish room and all your aquariums, and not just kind of going with the flow. I mean, a lot of people like to do that, but it's important that you just have some sort of rough idea what you're doing before you go and buy like a crazy flower horn or do something nuts. You know, you need to know what you're going to do. So tip number 6 is a cool tip as well, and it's going to save you so much money and so many fish's lives and so much medication. This is to check the expiry date of your food. I have used to, like, when I was very new into keeping fish, I had fish food from like, it sounds really bad, and I'm going to be so honest here. I had fish food from like 3 years ago, and I was feeding it to my fish, and I was wondering why they were getting sick and like why all these problems were happening. And it just became so obvious after I'd realized that after I got new food and fed it and had all the success with my fish, what the problem was. So a lot of people will buy fish food and they don't actually realize that they will never actually use that amount of food on their fish. And what can happen is over a year or 2 years, the food goes out of date, or some sort of mites get into the food, and it causes problems with your fish. So it's really important you guys go right now, go to your aquariums, go and check the labels on your food and make sure that this date. It's worth buying a new food for 30 bucks than having to buy a whole bunch of new fish or new medications for like $40. So make sure you go and check that now. Now my last tip is going to sound so cliche. A lot of people say to have patience and things like that. And to be honest, that was the most important thing I've ever had keeping fish, is just to give your aquariums time. It takes a long time for nature to do its thing and to balance itself out. And it's just as long as you've got live plants in your aquarium and you are doing your regular water changes and you're not really altering too much, and you've medicated the fish when they come in, just literally give your aquariums time. Don't be moving around plants. Put your plants where you want them to go because you planned your aquariums. Just give them time. You know, like your fish need time to settle into their home and to start breeding and doing all this stuff. It really does frustrate me when people get new aquariums and they keep rushing to the next thing and the next thing. Just take a seat, just enjoy your aquariums and just give it time. Plants take time to grow. All the stuff in here is going to look awesome in 1 year, Nick, when you're watching this again. They're going to look so cool. And yeah, I mean, like, I can't speed that up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one. I hope you guys got something out of this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.